All right, good morning, everyone. Great to have you along with us. Today is Monday, July 20th, Midsummer Day 2026, and this is our audio edition to the Daily Trade Strategy Briefing. For the regulators' enjoyment, NFA Compliance Rule 2-29C, subparagraph 1. Past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. Trade with money you can afford to lose. Yes, we can afford to lose. We're very good. Very good. All right, let's see where we are, where we've been, and potentially where we're going. Obviously, again, we're still in this midsummer range uh, rhythm. Not much really a change, that I can even cite for any of this. You can see the kind of the key area that the market's been responding from. Essentially, the kind of think about kind of the 60s, 80 range. Okay, again, this is where we had a breakout up over here. Okay, I was back on June 29th or so, 30th. And then we had a, first pullback here on a test. That was back on just ahead of July 4th. Got another test of that zone on the 8th. And once again, last week, right, all around I guess the 18th or 19th, I guess 18th. All right, so clearly, that's kind of a, this, if you want to call this will be our major, okay, line in the sand, basically 60-80 zone. Right, so buyers stepping in each and every time. Now we've had progressively higher highs, right, but not anything that can be sustained. You can see clearly every time it makes a new marginal high, right? We get the reversal, reversal, reversal. Okay, so basically kind of in this continued range. Fair amount of activity up in this area, so kind of the mid area here, right, which is kind of interesting. If you take a look at this 5-day profile, right, you can see here 40s to the 50s, right, that low volume node, LVN. So that low volume node. So basically that's kind of a, kind of think of it splits the middle here, or a line of demarcation, right, between the upper half and the lower half. Now it has spent a fair amount of time and considerable volume in the upper area. So that 45 area is going to be, clearly important for the market to maintain, right, in either direction. So meaning that for the bullish case, right, ask yourself, what would the bulls need to do? What level, zone, area would need to be cleared, converted, held? All right, and I'm basically looking roughly between 40s and the 50s. I'm not going to put a hard number on it, just a general zone. So that's what the bulls would need to do, right? Until then, bounces to that area, as we saw here early this morning, pre-opening, right? So far, anyways, has elicited some rejection. All right, so prices just came back up, kind of tagged that area, and since have pulled back. Not a whole lot, maybe about 10, 15 points. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, right? Looking at it as kind of a dual zone here. So let's kind of scroll out a little bit and look at the 5-day profile a little bit more in detail. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, kind of a double distribution, right, type of pattern. And again, this area here being, the key area, right? So you can call this a little bit more of even a major kind of line in the sand. So bulls would need to clear that. Bears, of course, want to reject that. So this becomes basically the battleground for the next kind of move, right? So now we definitely at this stage, right? So coming in today is a cycle day 2, and again we saw off of the cycle day 3 area, right? And again, this is very similar to what we saw in the previous cycle actually. Right, we saw the decline begin off the cycle day 3, which would be typical and normal, right? Came down, right? Put in the cycle day 1 low. All right, and by the way, this was an area here. Again, we highlighted that 75 to 80s on our previous reports, and that was also a cycle day 1 projection area. So very similar to the prior cycle. In other words, prices touched on those early, got a bounce here, and then we closed. This was Friday's close, right? Closed kind of weak, at least last in the day, but then no real overnight follow through or spillover to the. And what we've been seeing a lot on Sunday Globex is the market just seems to want to. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 recently that didn't do this, but most of the time on the Sunday opening Globex and during the overnight, typically we're getting a positive kind of reaction, right? So certainly the bulls want to, you know, call it defend, try to keep that, bid alive, however way you want to describe it, all right? But I think until, this lower area, 60s, 80s zones, ultimately, if it decides it wants to give it up and not reclaim it, then we could see a little bit more of a deeper, kind of lean. All right. But really, the BTFD, right, buy the F and dip theme, as many as people are trying to shift that, it hasn't, they haven't been successful at it, So again, I think it got to keep an eye out just on this low area of the charts at the moment. So until then, I guess our sandbox now coming in today would certainly be, again, keeping an eye out on this 40, 50, 60 zone, right? That low volume node as some, again, continued resistance, if you want to use that term, resistance, until they're able to clear and convert it, right? Again, you can also see some of the, footprints here. We had a low that that reversed. Then we got a break of that area. Then we got a kind of a retest back up here, right? And then now another retest. So again, all kind of coincides, with that 40-60 zone that I'm highlighting. All right, so all I'm doing is just highlighting like where the market has been. What are some of the key areas that I think the market overall, is looking at? I certainly am. Uh, but again, our goal is to always stay in alignment. But we need to know where areas are that the market may use to either, defend on either side, long side, short side, and where there would be a change potentially. Right? Those are where the big, battles, uh, are these areas where both sides are kind of defending their territory. Kind of, if you think about, just a battlefield, which essentially, and some people describe, the marketplace clearly as a battlefield, right? Um, so this would be an area where, clearly something, may develop. Okay. Obviously, the high volume node, there's been quite a bit of attempt to move higher by the bulls, and there's been like you can clearly see, there's just a lot of volume up here. Now, what we can't really determine at this stage until after the fact, is this accumulation or is it distribution? In most cases, you don't know until the resolution of this area, and then people will comment in the rearview mirror and saying, "Oh yeah, that was distribution." Or if it resolves to the upside, "Oh, that was a bullish accumulation." Okay, after the fact, that doesn't help us. All what we can identify is this area has a lot of commitment on both ends, a lot of transactions on both ends. So high volume areas, certainly, higher importance. There's time spent there, more important. Okay. It hasn't spent a lot of, as much volume down in this area. So what could we possibly say there? Sellers pushed it down, they got absorbed, but they haven't been able to move it higher. Okay, the buyers pushed it higher with a greater amount of perhaps some vigor and energy, but they haven't been able to move it higher. Okay, so bears haven't been able to move it lower, vice versa for bulls, and we're kind of in this kind of stalemate range action. So again, today being a cycle day 2, we have our low in place. We are looking for some, semblance of a rally. We do have a little bit of a rally in play. Now the key feature will be whether or not they can, get above this prior, you know, 45, 40 to 50 to the 60 zone. All right. So that will be kind of the goal set out for both sides. And the bears, if they want to reject that area, then prove it to us. If the bulls, you want to clear it and move it up to that higher point of control area, if that's what you want to do, okay, then prove it to us. Right? Just show us the way, and we'll go along for the ride. All right, that's the skinny on the mini. Let me know if you have any other viewpoints. I mean, it's always good to uh, hash that around. All right, very good. So today we begin neutral to a positive lean. Again, the upside targets that I outlined in the daily trade strategy so far have been fulfilled, went a little bit beyond. I had, a modest target right here at the 25s. Prices are sitting right around those 25s, all right, 30s area. So again, the next levels would be, 40s, 45s, 50s, 60s, 65s in that whole zone. All right. All right. Market's going to open up dingity ding ding. Let's make it a good day. Again, bulls have the ball, so it's theirs to lose, as we call it. All right, so the Bulls have the ball. Let's see if they make an attempt here to get through that key zone. Certainly, we would be looking to buy on dips here. There's an area of between say 20s and 30s with the high volume node right around that 25 target level that I had. So 20s, 30s, some high volume right in there. So again, we'll have to see how the market focuses on that and see what it wants to do. All right. So again, just retesting that early high to the 45s. Just keep something in mind when there's a high or a low in place, pre-opening. Okay. A very large percentage of the time, the market in the RTH, all right, typically wants to go back and retest those areas. And then a lot of it is, the market just needs to, when I say the market, all the participants, right, collectively, um, they need to, there's really a need to find out whether or not there's additional buying interest above a level. Remember where the last buyer bought would be with the high. Are there other buyers willing to pay higher than that? If so, what about the sellers? What are the sellers' intentions? What are they looking to do? Are they looking to sell into that buying more aggressively or not? Nobody's going to tell you. The market tells you by its activity. So in terms of like the observation part of the OTA loop, right? So these are kind of some of the conceptual ideas again I was taught when I was a youngster, and I would ask the question myself, you know, uh, are there sellers there, right? And then my mentor, the Duke, he would say in very colorful language, mind you, right? Go F and buy it and find out, right? Because nobody's going to broadcast it to you. Same thing today, even more so because these algorithms like to keep things very stealthily, right? But it's the same thing today. You want to know if there's buyers above that level or if there's sellers, well, go test it. Now again, for our purposes, we can't do that necessarily, right? Because we don't really have the buying power individually to do that. We don't need to. All right. There is something again, I always kind of referred to, when I was a market maker, I had plenty of capital to move prices around. In the very short term, I was able to do so, right? Depending on what we were doing. But since I don't have the bronze, right, the bank account, hopefully I have the brains. So that's what we're trying to work on here to with what we do. It's like trying to understand what's going on, right? Since we don't have the power to move it, the market collectively does. So we just monitor the market's action, right? So what's the market doing right now, right? So it's bidding it up. So I say the onus is on the bulls to keep that, to keep moving it higher. They're trying to find what? They're trying to find where there's supply, where there's a reaction. Yes, do they want to buy it? Apparently so, collectively, right? And then other people jump on and the whole 9 yards. But they're still looking to find out, okay, where's there a sell response? So right now, this kind of, I call it kind of the Pac-Man effect, where they're just, constantly chipping away, chipping away, chipping away at the offerings until there's a large enough response to stop the bids. Now, unfortunately, if you're looking to get on board here, there's not really a pullback. If you're looking for the pullback to get on board, there hasn't been one yet so far. So, all right, and there's the 50 level that I mentioned. The next kind of levels above we'll be looking for would be the 50 area up through those, again, those 60s. Now for us, again, where did kind of, the sellers stop, right? Or they got absorbed, right? Down here near the 40s, right? So we mark those off. That's where the sellers stop, the sellers got absorbed. All right, so mark that off, right? You guys are doing using your rays or your rectangles. Mark that off on your chart. That's where the last sellers got absorbed before pushing higher. At least that gives you a reference. Right, so this is right in the middle of that volume node area that we were talking about. And there are some gamma levels in and around here, 75.43s, 75.53s. So there's some gamma levels around here. So and if I'm not mistaken, the 48s is the RTH high, right? Prior high. Am I correct on that? or is that no, no. Yeah, 39s is okay. No, I'm looking at 48s is a prior low from last week. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Niels. All right, so again, staying to the long side, just nibbling, where we can. Again, probes are always authorized naturally, right, on the long side here. If you're looking for an A10 long, it's again, keep an eye on that green zone, right? It's around the 34s, 35s, and that would still be fine. I don't like the market to run too far away. Then what happens is the market runs too far away early. The market gets it gets destabilized, and then when the bids kind of get totally crushed, and the sellers come, then there's no bid, you know. So hopefully there's still activity if it pulls back. Volume is picking up here, so the buyers have begun to encounter some selling, but that does not mean it's reversing. Just they finally beginning to find some supply. But the buyers own the ball, so it's up to them. All right, so long of the A4 early this morning here, as you can see. All right, we got two targets out, and then we got a discount working. That one hasn't hit target yet. So A4 so far. All right, so A4 long scaling here, stops in place, stop trails in place. right, so right up to the 50s. Little pullback again. Um, Stop trail in the A4. Didn't get our target on the discount. Okay, but you can see the market, it's starting to slow down the acceleration to the upside, right? Why? Well, we're price is encountering some supply, so the buyers now have found an area, right, where they can get filled on their buy interest. Now, again, let's see on this pullback, right, whether or not the market is successful and buyers still emerge if we get a pullback to that 810 area, which is around 35.50 or so. All right, we get that volume edge there, which we highlighted, the pivots, right? So far, just right back into that pivot zone, 39.40s. Does it hold? We'll see. I think we'll find out. Let's see if the buyers are still around or they're taking a powder. Oh, guess not. This is the danger, when the market moves like this. They just run out of buying power. How many times have we seen this before? All right, so definitely those 50s are big time, bigly resistance, right? All right, so let's see what happens around just kind of about the VWAP. Yeah, I guess who took the BLT? I figured you did there, Johnny. Yeah, definitely a good play there against that zone. All right. All right, so now we know. Now we know. All right, just going to be patient for the next structural setup. Nice trade, John. South. Look at this. They exhaust all the buying. Then where are the buyers? Yep. Yeah, John is making Barbara proud with the BLT trade. All right, so the market's just going to need to probe for how far they would and push it to the downside before there's a response. Previous point of control is right around the 12-15 area from Friday. Yeah, there you go. John says, I'm compelled to draw a horizontal yellow dashed line wherever a discounted premium arrow appears on the chart, highlighting a potential BLT. Apparently suits my contrarian nature. There you go. There's a trade structure for everyone. John has found his. All right, let's see. If we get a bounce back again, perhaps around the 30-35 area may kind of stall out. I'm just kind of roughly looking at this area over here. All right, on a bounce from that. Oh, here we go. All right, this area over here. So if we get a bounce back up here, see what happens. Again, the market just kind of dropped right through that 810 area, pretty quickly. So if we get a bounce back up here, kind of in this zone, kind of looking. All right, back to 24-hour VWAP, right around the 25s. Again, that was one of our target points. I guess it likes the 25s right now. It's interesting. John mentions here uh, it suits his contrarian nature. What's interesting about that, is your view of the world can certainly influence the type of trades that you look for. And again, I'm just kind of thinking about that, right? So, if your view of the world is one, where it suits kind of that contrarian viewpoint, you're more likely to begin seeking trades as well that align. We talk about alignment a lot, right? Align with price action, but a lot of the trades that you end up taking, are actually aligned with your worldly view in many cases. I mean, there's some parallels there, is what I'm saying. It's not definitive in every instance, but kind of interesting to think about. Like, what trades are you seeking out? Are you a conformist? Right? Are you a conformist, or are you a non-conformist? Things like that can have an influence on your decisions, even in trading. Because what are we trading in most cases, right? In majority of all cases, you're trading a belief system. So John said, for sure, why do you think I'm in the middle of a blueberry field in the middle of a remote area of the world, right? Well, you're seeking peace in a world that's absolutely chaotic, right? But having that contrarian view, you don't want to, you're a nonconformist to the general worldview. So think about that for yourself. I mean, just think about your own trading and what your own beliefs and views are. I think you'll be interested to find some parallels to your style of trading, or you know what type of trades that you're attracted and resonate with. And even though I talk about being in alignment all the time, yes, I am referring to alignment with price action, but also being in alignment is you also need to be in alignment with yourself, right? In terms of if you truly understand your own belief system, then your actions are going to or should be in alignment with that belief system. And again, translating that into the trading world, so it must be there's a lot of contrarians out there, because everybody seems to want to counter trade everything. Not saying that's wrong, I'm just making an observation. All right, so we got a little shift, obviously. Didn't get a bounce. I would have loved to see a bounce, near to the 30-35s, but no dice. All right, so the market is drifting lower now. Obviously, we're probably going to have a gap fill, I would imagine. If it clears down through the tens, 9 tens, you know, for me that's the gap fill. All right around nines. How quickly the sentiment shifts, though, doesn't it? Right? Everybody wanted to buy them, buy them, buy them, and then boom, 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 they get filled, and then now everybody wants to sell, sell, sell. Uh, and that's really what I'm talking about in terms of kind of alignment. BLTs are great at the edges. So there's a trade for every season, as they say, right? I pretty much have a gap fill here, the 11s, 1150, down to the 9s. So, and again, I'm kind of looking at this area right here. Pretty much the gap's filled. This high pivot from 255 on Friday, 11 and a half. That's how I measure a gap fill. I don't go all the way down to the close. As long as it just, gets back within the pivot area. All right, this is the prior point of control area from Friday. This on the RTH session. So All right, so nines or tens? I guess it's tens. All right, we have a premium that's playing out. The first discount up there didn't play out. We're getting a premium that's now playing out. And I got a 950 tick, so I guess the gap is officially filled. All right, the premium played out. Targets fulfilled on the premium. All right, very good. At least we got something out of that. All right, so two cards fulfilled there. All right, so kind of reframing this out, 10s, 30s perhaps. Let's do a sandbox. 75, 10, 75, 30-ish. Right, plus or minus. All right, see if we get a bounce back up to towards BWAP and the A10 up there, perhaps 2850s. The again the upper part. This is our sandbox that I outlined. Basically, this kind of block area here, with volume. Okay, so if we get up towards the upper edge, again, we'd be looking for some sort of reversion back towards the middle there. If we get it. right, guys, I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm just going to be patient and looking for the next opportunity here. Again, we do have an A4 that did trigger. We'll see if this plays out here. A4 did trigger here, the lower edge of the sandbox. See if we can get a pop up a little bit towards the VWAP. And then if you're looking for a short, it's going to be up towards the upper end of the sandbox, give or take around the 810 area. All right, just kind of sitting here. We did get first target on the A4. Stops in place below the low. Not really anything to write home about there. All right, get stopped out on that. Just really didn't get anything good out of that. Kind of a chug and slug area, it seems. All right, quiet commentary from me today, folks. I don't have a whole lot to say. Just kind of monitoring the situation at the moment. Tax day for me today. Tax day. Gotta go pay my real estate taxes. Gotta make some money. Gotta pay those taxes. Yeah, I love your property tax bill. I would love it, I'm sure. Zero, nada, no property tax, right? I think I'm moving to Chile. I'll help you with your blueberry field. All right, seller's still putting some pressure on. Not allowing it to lift. So All right, see if that premium tags. We're a tick away from our premium target. Come on, give us something. I tell you, it's amazing. All right, got the premium, second premium target, well, first premium target rather. All right, there's only one target on that one. All right, we finally got that. Okay. All right, so we get down to 7,500. Let's see if we can get, still looking for, again, a couple premiums worked out beautifully. Next trade perhaps would be up around that 23-ish area near the VWAP. That area would need to shift anyways in order to kind of shift the dynamic of sell the bounces. Right, need to get through that VWAP area. Right, convert that in order to move price higher. So I still think we're going to be in this kind of sandbox zone for a bit.